what I'm going to do is give you a very high bird's eye picture of what are the main themes that emerge from an area called positive psychology on what it takes to lead a happy and fulfilling life, okay? So that's the question that I'm going to be focusing on. What does it take to be happy? You would think that by now we would have figured this question out, the answer to this question, because we've been trying for a very long time, back from the days of Aristotle at least, and then even before that actually, from Buddha to all the way now. But there's a big difference now in the last about 20 years. There's been a lot of scientific inquiry into this question, right? But to think about it critically and ask yourself, is this true for me, right? And if you think like that, then maybe some questions will come to your head that you can ask me later on. Okay, so what does it take to lead a happy and fulfilling life? The first thing that turns out to be very important is that your basic necessities are met or fulfilled. And by basic necessities, I mean things like your food, clothing, some level of security, right? Your medical expenses. All these things need to be taken care of if you are to be happy. In fact, not just to be happy, but even to be not unhappy, right? Even to go from a state of negative emotion, unhappiness, to a state of neutrality, you need to have your basic necessities taken care of. Otherwise, you can't even aspire to be in a neutral state. Forget about happiness, okay? Lots of studies that show this. I think one study that comes to mind is a study that looked at the level of happiness of people and their income levels, okay? You would think that more money is going to make you more happy, and it is true. It does make you more happy, but only up to a limit of about $80,000 per household. This is back in the United States, okay? Why is it? Why is it up to $80,000 there's a positive relationship between money and happiness? It's because at $80,000, all your basic necessities are met. Okay, for a household of 2 adults and 2 kids, on average, food and transportation and medical expenses, all these things are met up to $80,000. And after that, there's a flat relationship between money and happiness. Okay, because the basic necessities are taken care of. After that, more money doesn't necessarily make you more happy. Okay, what's the second theme that emerges? It turns out that as human beings, we have some very, very important goals that have to be met if we are to be happy. Okay, I'm going to refer to these goals as mastery, belongingness, and autonomy. Okay, mastery, belongingness, autonomy, and that if you take the first letters of those 3 things, it's M, B, A. Okay, what does mastery represent? It represents a progression towards becoming really good at doing something. So you can't really be happy as a human being unless you feel, I'm really good at this, okay, whatever that thing is. So it can be gardening, it can be fashion, it can be being a professor, etc. Okay? But you need something that you feel that you're really good at, or you're progressing towards becoming good at that thing. Okay? That's one. Second thing that turns out to be very important is a sense of connection with at least one other human being on Earth. Okay? So there was a study done with about 220 people, and they looked at the top 10% of the happiest people in that group, about 22 people in the top 10%. And they looked at various characteristics that these 10% of the happiest people shared. And they had many different characteristics that were quite prevalent, like they were more extroverted, more open to experiences, less neurotic, and so on and so forth. But there was one characteristic that every single last person in that group of 22 had, which is that every one of them had at least one really intimate relationship. And the third one is autonomy, which has to do with a sense of control you feel you have in your life. Okay, are you in control of your major decisions in life, or is somebody else in control? Right? Can you choose what kind of specialization you want to have in your studies? Can you choose where you live? Can you choose who you marry, etc.? Okay? If you don't have this control and you're under somebody else's control, like parents' control or the government's control, then you can't be very happy. So, for example, citizens of democracies are far happier than citizens of dictatorships. Okay? Which again, third thing, this is actually the most important thing. Okay? Which turns out to be a big determinant of happiness. And it is what you might call a mindset. So one variety is what might be called a scarcity mindset. People who operate from a scarcity mindset believe that life is a zero-sum game. That is that if I have to win, then you have to lose. okay? Which is true in some sports, right? I mean, usually one team emerges the winner, right? Sometimes there's a draw, but usually one team emerges the winner, and for that team to emerge the winner, the other team has to lose. Yeah. But if you think life is a zero-sum game, that is that if I have to grow my business, then some other business has to go down. Okay, if I have to get a good grade in my class, then other people have to fail. If you look at life like that, then you operate from a scarcity mindset. What it's going to promote is a sense of greed, self-centeredness, okay? Lack of compassion, lack of caring about other people, okay? And that kind of a mindset is not very, very good for happiness. In fact, it lowers your happiness levels. And the other mindset, other extreme, is what might be called an abundance mindset. And people who operate from an abundance mindset act as if they have more than enough of everything that they need, okay? They have more than enough love. They have more than enough trust in life that good things are going to happen, that I am taken care of, okay? And when you operate like that, then you have a very strong foundation under you which supports you, and you feel like, look, my problems are sorted, okay? Even if they're not solved right now, I'm pretty sure they're going to get solved. How can I solve your problems, right? How can I help you? So that is the attitude of somebody with an abundance mindset, and it turns out having an abundance mindset is much better for happiness. Okay, now what I'm going to do is walk you through how the scarcity versus abundance mindset makes a difference to how people pursue these three big goals that I talked about earlier: mastery, belongingness, and autonomy, okay? So a scarcity-minded person is going to infer that they're progressing towards mastery if they feel that they are superior to other people. So I feel I'm becoming really, really good at being a professor if I get better teaching ratings than my colleague. And if I, okay, so that's a very, very big reason why it's not very good to seek superiority if you want to be happy. There's many other reasons. I'll just talk about one other reason here. I talk about it in my book, the other 3 or 4 reasons. So the other reason why it's not very good to tether your happiness to superiority is because of the kind of people you end up associating yourself with. Okay, if you are a superiority-seeking type, then those who are not into seeking superiority don't like your company, right? They think of you as somebody who's always boasting and bragging, and you might do it really subtly. You might do it in a very sophisticated manner, right? You might wear just the right kind of clothes and all that, but still people can sense that you're a superiority-seeking type, so they move away from you, and you're surrounded in the end with other people who are also superiority-seeking type. What's much more important for success is pursuing something called flow, that I won't get into here because I don't have time. But basically what flow is, if you want to kind of just a 20-second summary, is losing yourself in a task, right? You're getting so involved in the task that you completely lose track of time. Okay, and that happens if 2 things are there. One is you enjoy the task, right? You're not in this program because you want to earn a lot of money or somebody else told you that this is a good program to enroll in, but because you're really, really deeply interested in lifestyle, for example, okay? So if you enjoy the task and you have the talent for it, okay? So you need to find out whether, and ask yourself whether you are doing something that is in the intersection of these 2 circles. Do I enjoy doing it? Do I have talent for it? And if you are in that intersection, then chances are very high that you're going to experience these flow states. Okay, and let me get to the second one, the need to belong, right? Belongingness need. A scarcity-minded person is going to think that their cup of love is empty, right? They're scarcity-minded. They feel that I don't have enough love. And so what they end up doing is seeking other people to love them. They want to be the center of attention. They want to be famous. They want to be admired, okay? And it turns out that that's not very good if you want to be happy for a variety of reasons. So what's a much better approach if you want to be happy is to operate from a sense of abundance when it comes to love as well, which is to say that, look, I'm sorted. I have more than enough love in my life. I have a lot of people that like me and look after me and care for me. And it's true for most people. It really depends on where you pay your attention, right? And when you operate from abundance, what happens is you end up being kind and compassionate to other people. And when you do that, they naturally want to then reciprocate your love and attention. And therefore, you set yourself up in these really nice, positive, reciprocal webs, right? and that elevates you, and that makes you happy. Okay, so it's much better to be somebody who operates out of need to love, and when you do that, then naturally your desire for intimacy and belongingness gets fulfilled. Okay. All right, the last one, the need for autonomy. That is somebody with a scarcity mindset seeks to fulfill that need through taking what's called external control. Okay, so somebody who feels a sense of scarcity in terms of how much control and autonomy they have in their life is going to seek to control other people in their life, their roommates or their boyfriend or girlfriend, even their pets, right? I told you that you shouldn't be pooping here, okay? Don't do that, or whatever, you know? So that's what happens. We try and take control over colleagues and everybody else in our life. And actually I should say, not or, people with a scarcity mindset in terms of autonomy are also going to seek control over outcomes, okay? And the story in their head is, I'm not really happy because fill in the blanks, right? I'm not at the right university, or I don't have the right kind of classes, or my roommate is screwed up, or, you know, Donald Trump won the election, okay, etc. And so what happens is that there is a lot of blaming the external environment for one's lack of happiness. And that's not very good for happiness for a variety of reasons. Okay, speaking of Donald Trump. Okay, and a very big reason for this, is why external control is not very good for happiness, is that life is like Donald Trump's hair. It's very difficult to control, okay? It turns out that if you're high in seeking external control, what's going to happen is that other people around you who disagree with you or have a different opinion about things are not going to find your company to be very pleasant. Okay? So eventually, you're going to surround yourself with other people who totally agree with you. Okay? And that kind of a setup where everybody around you is basically saying things that you already know or are aligned with your way of thinking, that kind of a group is not going to make the best decisions. What the research shows is that you need disagreement in our life. Again, we have lots of examples of these kinds of people. Of course, they're all like really lofty people like Jesus Christ or Mahatma Gandhi or Nelson Mandela, and people like that, right? But we have examples of people who can do that. And there's lots of other people who are somewhere between the low end of internal control and the high end of internal control. And what it requires is for you to practice something that usually doesn't get talked about as much, okay, which is emotion regulation. How are you going to regulate your emotions? How are you going to control your own mind, okay, which is a very, very big topic. But I just wanted to at least mention that there is this way of taking control, of seeking autonomy, which is very different from external control, which has to do with internal control. Okay, and the more internal control you have, the more you are calm and collected and capable of being completely cool, unperturbed, given whatever situation, the less external control you will seek. Okay? Not that you'll not want to persuade other people or have goals or try and achieve certain outcomes, but this edge of feverishness, desperation that usually accompanies somebody who does not have internal control will be lacking. And so you'll come across as much more authentic, much more mature, much more measured in how you interact with other people and how you seek your goals. Okay.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say.